Hello, so good morning. This is Esther Rook. I'm from Reach Derby. Um, yeah, I've got around to finally recording a devotion, and the subject for today's devotion is God provides. Or another way to say that is Jehovah Jireh. My obviously topic is going to be that today. It's going to be taken from Genesis 22 and verses 9 to 14. So if you want to find that passage, and then obviously now listen to some music, that's what we do first, isn't it? So if you want to listen to the music and then worship and then come back, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, so hopefully you've all had time to listen to the song and worship God. It's amazing, isn't it, just spending time with him, and how much that can change our perspective. So yeah, today's subject is Jehovah Jireh. I have a little prop with me today. If you can see that this is actually a sign that belonged at a friend of mine's house, and she called her house Jehovah Jireh, the Lord provides. And I was given this at a time that we personally needed God to provide for us. It was quite a stressful time in our life. Some of you might remember it, might have walked through it with us, but many years ago we couldn't sell our house, and we were stuck, and it was a feeling being very stuck, and where's God in this? And I think we can often feel at this time perhaps quite stuck in our homes or situations, not being able to buy certain things or find a way to help someone. Lots of ways we can feel frustrated in that. And I felt prompted to share today from this verse in Genesis. So let's read it, shall we? It's Genesis 22 and starting at verse 9. I'm going to read it from the Message. I hope that's okay. I found this was quite an interesting one to read from. So, yeah, okay. They arrived at the place to which God had directed them. Abraham built an altar, he laid out the wood, and he tied up Isaac and laid him on the wood. Abraham reached out and took the knife to kill his son. Just then an angel of God called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Yes, I'm listening. Don't lay a hand on that boy, don't touch him. Now I know how fearlessly you fear God. You didn't hesitate to place your son, your dear son, on the altar for me. Abraham looked up. He saw a ram caught on the thorns in the thicket. Abraham took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham named that place God Yara. God sees to it. That's where we get the saying, on the mountain of God, he sees to it. That's obviously another way of saying Jehovah Jireh. Anyway, yeah. What I wanted to share from, hopefully people are familiar with that passage, was just that it's easy to, perhaps in times of everything being fine, to trust God, but when times when we perhaps don't know where our next meal's coming from, we might not feel quite so trusting. And yeah, I just wanted to encourage people, if that's been the case for you. It certainly has for me at times in this last few weeks, where I felt I'm quite anxious actually about this, and how am I going to get the food I need for my children, or we're self-isolating. There's always people around to help, which is lovely in the church, but you can still sometimes find it hard to ask for help, can't you? And anyway, I felt just as before we went into lockdown, I'd started to share about this sign and the story behind it, and I wanted to share that with you today as an encouragement from this verse. What actually happened in our scenario was God did provide, and we moved to our new house after God provided miraculously for us to do that. And I've kept this in our cupboard because it's a prophetic gesture from a friend, and I got this out just before lockdown to share with our community actually. And there's just a few families around, and I said, do you know what God showed us? And I was trying to talk to the kids about it. They weren't that interested, but I was trying. Anyway, the point is, through all of that, I've kept that in my cupboard, And as we went into lockdown, one of my biggest fears has always been, what if I haven't got enough food for my family or for me? And that's still there as a promise. So it's been tested. And I think what's interesting from that passage is the context for that was Abraham was being tested. Do you trust me? Do you trust me to provide? And even with, in a scenario where God's asking us to lay down our own son, which most of us aren't asked to do, thankfully, Abraham trusted God, and he did take Isaac with him, and God then provided miraculously again. It wasn't there, and then it was there, because God can do that. So our challenge, I think, in this is, do we trust God enough? And sometimes that can be hard, but it's certainly been my testimony at this time, and I hope that encourages others, that in the moments where I've gone, Lord, how do I handle this? I really need your help here. I'm a bit anxious, or perhaps a bit stressed, or finding something really difficult with the kids, because you're all in the same house 24/7, and you're less perhaps full of patience than you might be normally. I've certainly cried out to God, and he's provided in amazing ways, just little ways, like I've needed something and I've looked in the cupboard thinking it wasn't there, and it was there, which doesn't sound perhaps that big to someone, but for me in that moment it was really, really important and really precious, and reminded me, actually, God, you're there with me. So if that's hopefully encouraging to you to read that scripture, get into it and remind yourself that God is Jehovah Jireh. He has everything in him that we need. And yeah, hopefully that's an encouragement today to you. So shall we just pray? Father, I just really want to pray that particularly for families and for everybody, those on their own, but for families as well, that where that need at times, they might not feel they have everything they need, and they might not feel they have it all together. And I just pray, Jesus, that at these times you would be close to them, that even now you would be working in and through your church, that we'd be responding to each other's needs, but that you would be providing, we would deepen our relationship with you in this time and hear your voice, your still small voice, in those moments where we really need it. And I just thank you for your faithfulness, Father. You're so faithful to us. It makes me smile just how faithful you are. So I pray that joy would go with each one of us today in whatever we're doing, and that we'd remember that you are our Jehovah Jireh. Amen.